To sell is human. The surprising truth about moving others. Written by Daniel Pink. Part 1. The statistic that will change how you see your life. There's a number you need to hear. It's a number that describes the work you do every single day, whether you realize it or not. That number is 40%. According to a groundbreaking study, the average person now spends a staggering 40% of their time at work not just doing their job, but persuading, influencing, and moving other people. That's 24 minutes of every hour. Think about that for a second. Nearly half of your professional life is dedicated to an activity that most of us have a very ugly name for: selling. And if that word just made you flinch, you're not alone. When surveyed, the first words that leap to people's minds when they hear sales are things like pushy, dishonest, slimy, yuck, and manipulative. We picture a fast-talking used car salesman in a cheap suit, a character we've been taught to distrust and despise. This creates a terrifying problem. If we're all spending almost half our lives engaged in an activity we fundamentally hate and misunderstand, how can we possibly be effective? How can we succeed? How can we find fulfillment in our work? This is the great unspoken paradox of modern life. We've been led to believe that selling is a dirty, degrading activity reserved for a select few. But the world has changed under our feet, and the old map we were given is now useless. The truth is, the ability to move others is no longer a fringe skill. It is central to our survival and our happiness. And the path to mastering it doesn't involve becoming someone you're not. It involves becoming more human. The guide for this journey. Our guide on this journey of rediscovery is Daniel H. Pink. Pink isn't a sales guru from some corporate training manual. He's a deep thinker and a masterful storyteller who has spent his career exploring the frontiers of work, motivation, and human behavior. A former chief speechwriter for Vice President Al Gore and a Yale Law School graduate, Pink has authored international bestsellers like Drive and A Whole New Mind. He possesses a unique talent for digging into mountains of social science research and emerging with stunning, counterintuitive, and life-changing insights. In his groundbreaking book, To Sell is Human, Pink reveals a truth that is as surprising as it is essential. The world of sales has changed more in the last 10 years than it did in the previous 100. The old tactics, the high-pressure closes, the information hoarding, it's all built on a foundation that has crumbled into dust. He argues that we are all, in our own way, in the moving business now. And to thrive, we don't need to learn sleazy tricks. We need to rediscover the fundamental human qualities that allow us to connect, to persuade, and to serve. In this audiobook summary, we will embark on a journey to understand this new world. First, we'll shatter the old myths of sales and discover why you, me, and everyone we know is now part of this universal human endeavor. Then, we'll uncover the new ABCs of moving others, a powerful framework of attunement, buoyancy, and clarity that will become your new compass. And finally, we'll equip you with 3 essential, practical skills: how to pitch, how to improvise, and most importantly, how to serve. Are you ready to change the way you see yourself and the world? Let's begin. The salesman isn't dead. He's been reborn. As you. Let me tell you a story. It's about a man who shouldn't exist in our modern world. His name is Norman Hall. He's 75 years old, wears a bow tie, and carries a 3-ring binder full of product pictures. Norman is a Fuller brush salesman. And not just any Fuller brush salesman. He is the last one. For most of the 20th century, the Fuller brush man was an American icon. Brigades of salesmen roamed neighborhoods, sample cases in hand, offering a free vegetable scrubber just to get a foot in the door. They were so ubiquitous They appeared in Disney cartoons and Hollywood films starring Lucille Ball. They were a cultural fixture. But now, they're gone. The internet, we were told, would kill the salesman. Why would anyone need a middleman when you can find anything you want with a few clicks? The door-to-door peddler, like the telephone operator, was supposed to be swept into the dustbin of history. And Norman Hall, the last of his kind, seems to be the living proof of that theory. But here's the unbelievable twist. While we were writing the salesman's obituary, something astonishing happened. The salesman didn't die. He multiplied. Official statistics from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics tell a surprising story. Today, 1 out of every 9 American workers is still in traditional sales. More than 15 million people earn their living by convincing someone to make a purchase. America has more salespeople than factory workers. It has more salespeople than the entire federal government workforce, by a factor of 5 to 1. Even during the rise of the internet, from 2000 to today, the proportion of the workforce in sales has remained exactly the same, 1 in 9. Interesting, isn't it? The very technology that was supposed to make them obsolete didn't. But that's not even the most shocking part of the story. The real revolution isn't what happened to that 1 in 9. It's what happened to the other 8. It turns out they're in sales too. They just don't know it. Pink calls it non-sales selling. This is the doctor persuading a patient to adopt a healthier lifestyle. The teacher convincing students that learning algebra is crucial for their future. The manager pitching a new idea to her team. The parent coaxing a child to do their homework. And here's where that 40% figure comes back. In a first-of-its-kind study commissioned for this book, Pink surveyed thousands of workers. The results were staggering. People are now spending about 40% of their time at work engaged in non-sales selling. They're persuading, convincing, and influencing others to give up something of value, their time, their attention, their effort, in exchange for something else. And you know what they said was most critical to their professional success? Not processing information. It was moving others. So, the question is no longer if you're in sales. The only question is, how did this happen? How did we all end up in the moving business? The 3 forces that changed everything. The world didn't just wake up one day and decide to become a planet of salespeople. This transformation was driven by 3 deep, powerful currents that have reshaped the landscape of our work and lives. Pink identifies them as entrepreneurship, elasticity, and EdMed. Let's start with entrepreneurship. Think about it. The same technologies that were supposed to wipe out salespeople have actually done the opposite. They've turned more of us into sellers. Websites like Etsy, eBay, and Kickstarter have torn down the barriers to entry, allowing anyone with an idea to become an entrepreneur. Today, the US economy has over 21 million non-employer businesses, tiny operations run by a single person. A freelance graphic designer, an artisanal pickle maker, a consultant working from a home office. These people don't have a sales department. They are the sales department. They are constantly moving others, convincing clients, negotiating with suppliers, motivating themselves. And with the explosion of smartphones, every single one of us now carries a potential storefront in our pocket. A world of entrepreneurs is a world of salespeople. But what if you work for a big company? That brings us to the second force, elasticity. Decades ago, big organizations were built on specialization. Accountants did accounting. Engineers did engineering. And salespeople did selling. But in today's turbulent world, that rigid structure has shattered. Companies have become flatter, leaner. Everyone is expected to do more with less. Your job description is no longer a fixed box. It's a flexible, elastic band. Look at a company like Atlassian, a software giant that generates over $100 million in sales without a single traditional salesperson. How? Their CEO says, in a weird way, everyone is a salesperson. Their engineers don't just write code. They have to understand customer needs so deeply that they build something people are moved to buy. Their support staff doesn't just answer questions. They guide people with such elegance and value that they turn wavering prospects into loyal customers. In this new world, your skills must stretch across boundaries. And that stretching almost always includes the ability to move others. Finally, there's the third and perhaps most profound force, EdMed. This is Pink's term for the two fastest growing sectors in the entire developed world: education and health services. Think about the jobs in these fields: teachers, doctors, nurses, counselors, coaches. What is their core purpose? It's not to manufacture a product. It's to move people. A great teacher moves students from a state of not knowing to a state of understanding. She convinces them to part with their attention and effort in exchange for knowledge that will better their lives. A skilled physical therapist moves a patient from injury to recovery. She persuades him to endure temporary pain and discomfort for the promise of long-term health. The very essence of EdMed is non-sales selling. And as our populations age and our economies grow more complex, these jobs are exploding. We are shifting from a white-collar economy to what Pink calls a white coat, Juas white chalk economy, where moving others is the central work we do. So there you have it: entrepreneurship, elasticity, and EdMed. These three unstoppable forces have converged to quietly and irrevocably transform our lives. We are all in the moving business now. The salesperson isn't a relic of the past. The salesperson is us. But this realization brings us face to face with that old, ugly image. If selling is so central to our lives, are we all doomed to become those pushy, slimy, manipulative characters we so despise? What if I told you that the very foundation of that stereotype has been completely obliterated? Halan, the power shift from buyer beware to seller. Beware. For centuries, the entire world of commerce was built on a simple, two-word Latin phrase: caveat emptor, buyer beware. And do you know why? Because the seller always had more information than the buyer. This is what economists call information asymmetry. Let's travel back in time to understand this. Imagine you wanted to buy a used car in 1975. The salesman knew everything about that car: its real history, its hidden defects, its true cost. You, the buyer, knew almost nothing. You were walking into the negotiation informationally naked. In that world, the seller held all the power. And with that power came the temptation to deceive, to manipulate, to hide the truth. The slimy stereotype wasn't a reflection of the act of selling itself. It was a reflection of the conditions under which selling took place. When one side has all the information, the other side has to be on guard. Buyer beware. Now fast forward to today. You want to buy that same used car. What do? Before you even step foot in a dealership, you pull out your phone. You can check prices on dozens of websites. You can read reviews from hundreds of other owners. You can get a full vehicle history report with a single click, revealing every accident and repair. You can even research the reputation of the dealership and the specific salesperson. Who has the power now? The world of information asymmetry is dead. We now live in a world of information parity, where buyers and sellers have roughly equal access to information. And this changes everything. The guiding principle is no longer caveat emptor. it is caveat venditor, seller beware. Why? Because in a world of transparency, the low road is no longer a viable path. If a seller is dishonest, unfair, or unclear, the buyer has a megaphone. They can tell a few hundred friends on Facebook. They can warn their followers on Twitter. They can post a scathing review on Google. A bad reputation, once a local whisper, can now become a global shout in an instant. Pink illustrates this power shift with the tale of two car sellers. First, there's Joe Girard, the Guinness World Record holder for car sales. His book, How to Sell Anything to Anybody, is filled with tactics from the age of information asymmetry. He brags about lying to customers to build rapport, pretending he's been to the same vacation spots. He describes elaborate cold-calling schemes built on trickery. His methods feel like a relic from a forgotten time, because they are. Joe Girard hasn't sold a car since 1977. Now meet Tammy Darvish, the vice president of one of the largest auto groups on the East Coast. She operates in the world of caveat venditor. She knows her customers are often more educated about the cars than her own staff. Today, the customer is telling me, she says. Her job has shifted from being a purveyor of information to a curator and clarifier of it. She doesn't hire experienced salespeople with old, bad habits. The qualities she looks for aren't slickness or aggression. The number one quality she seeks? Empathy. You can't train someone to care, she explains. The ultimate test for her salespeople is to ask, what decision would I make if that were my own mom sitting there? This isn't just a feel-good story. This is the new reality of moving others. Honesty, fairness, and transparency are no longer just the moral path. They're the only pragmatic path. The old world of selling was a dark and treacherous landscape, full of hidden traps and information predators. It's no wonder we feared it. But that world is gone. We've been given a new map for a new, more open terrain. And to navigate it, we need a new set of tools. The old ABCs, always be closing, are dead. It's time to learn the new ABCs. Are you ready for them? Part 2. The new ABCs, your secret code to moving others. In the gritty 1992 film Glengarry Glen Ross, a ruthless executive played by Alec Baldwin storms into a failing real estate office to terrorize a group of struggling salesmen. He scrawls 3 letters on a chalkboard and barks out the brutal mantra of 20th century sales, ABC, always be closing. For decades, this was the gospel. Every interaction, every word, every maneuver had to be relentlessly focused on one thing. Pushing the transaction to a conclusion. Your conclusion. But in a world of caveat venditor, where the balance of power has shifted, this aggressive, one-sided approach is no longer just ineffective, it's a recipe for failure. The old ABCs are a compass that points to a world that no longer exists. So, Daniel Pink offers us a new set of ABCs, rebuilt from the ground up for the 21st century. These aren't tactics. They are qualities. They represent a new way of being. They are attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Master these, and you will have the code to effectively and ethically moving others. Let's start with A, for attunement. Attunement, the art of seeing with their eyes. Attunement is the ability to bring your actions and outlook into harmony with other people and with the context you're in. It's about getting out of your own head and seeing the world from someone else's perspective. It sounds simple, but Pink reveals it's a profound skill, built on 3 counterintuitive principles. The first principle is revolutionary. Increase your power by reducing it. We tend to think that power and influence go hand in hand, but a fascinating series of studies, led by social scientist Adam Galinsky, found the exact opposite. In experiments, people who were made to feel powerful were almost 3 times less likely to be able to see a situation from another person's point of view. Power, it turns out, acts like a set of blinders. It makes you anchor too heavily on your own perspective and fail to adjust to others. This is a massive insight. In the old world of information asymmetry, the seller held the power, and their perspective was the only one that mattered. But now that the power has shifted, the ability to see the other side's perspective is paramount. The most effective way to do this? Start your encounters with the assumption that you're the one in the position of lower power. This is persuasion jujitsu. Use your apparent weakness as your greatest strength. It will force you to be more attuned, more observant, and ultimately more effective. The second principle of attunement is, use your head as much as your heart. We often hear about the importance of empathy, the ability to feel what another person is feeling. And empathy is crucial. But when it comes to moving others, research shows that its cognitive twin, perspective taking, the ability to understand what another person is thinking, is even more effective. In one study, negotiators were divided into two groups. One was told to feel what the other side was feeling, empathy. The other was told to understand what the other side was thinking, perspective taking. The result? The perspective takers were far more successful at creating deals that satisfied both sides. Why? Because empathy can sometimes cause you to submerge your own interests. Perspective taking allows you to find the perfect balance between asserting your own goals and understanding theirs, leading to more creative, win-win solutions. It's about getting inside their heads, not just their hearts. And the third principle of attunement is a physical one. Mimic strategically. Humans are natural mimickers. When someone crosses their arms, we often do the same without realizing it. Scientists call this the chameleon effect, and it's a powerful sign of trust and connection. Studies have shown that when we subtly mimic the mannerisms of another person, we build rapport and increase our chances of a positive outcome. Waitresses who repeated a customer's order verbatim earned 70% more in tips. Salespeople who mimicked their customers' nonverbal behavior saw a nearly 20% jump in sales. But what about the myth that all great salespeople are slick, gregarious extroverts? It turns out that's one of the biggest lies in the book. A massive analysis of 35 separate studies found that the correlation between extroversion and sales performance was almost zero. The best performers aren't extroverts. They're not introverts either. They are ambiverts, people who are a blend of both. Ambiverts naturally know when to speak up and when to shut up. They are the most skilled attuners, able to flex their style to match any person or situation. And the good news? Most of us are ambiverts. We are naturally built to attune. Buoyancy, the secret to staying afloat in an ocean of rejection. Every single person who tries to move others, whether selling a product or an idea, will face what Norman Hall calls an ocean of rejection. Wave after wave of no crashing against you. How do you stay afloat? The answer is the second essential quality, buoyancy. Pink breaks this down into what you must do before, during, and after any attempt to move others. Let's start with before. Interrogative self-talk. Traditional success gurus tell you to pump yourself up with positive affirmations. I am the greatest. I will succeed. But modern research reveals a far more effective method. It's what Bob the Builder does. He doesn't say, "We will fix it." He asks a question, "Can we fix it?" This is interrogative self-talk. And it is incredibly powerful. Why? First, asking a question rather than making a statement forces your brain to engage and come up with answers. If you ask yourself, "Can I nail this presentation?" Your mind will start generating the strategies you need to succeed. Yes, because I've prepared thoroughly. Or, I need to remember to speak more slowly this time. Second, it uncovers your own intrinsically motivated reasons for doing something. It reminds you why this matters to you. In one study, people who used questioning self-talk solved nearly 50% more puzzles than those who used declarative self-talk. So before you step into the arena, don't just pump your fist, ask a question. Next, there's during, maintain a healthy positivity ratio. Positivity isn't about being a grinning fool, it's a strategic tool. Research shows that positive emotions broaden our minds, making us more creative and receptive to new solutions. But here's the key. It's all about the ratio. Groundbreaking work by psychologist Barbara Fredrickson discovered a tipping point for human flourishing. That magic number is 3-to-1. For every one negative emotion you experience, you need to experience at least 3 positive emotions to stay buoyant and effective. But there's also an upper limit. Ratios above 11-to-1 lead to delusional cluelessness. You need what Pink calls appropriate negativity to provide feedback and keep you grounded. Believing in what you're selling is a huge source of authentic positivity. It's no longer enough to just fake it. In the world of caveat vendor, genuine conviction is contagious. Finally, there's after. Adopt an optimistic explanatory style. How you explain your failures to yourself is one of the most powerful predictors of future success. This is the work of legendary psychologist Martin Seligman. He found that people who give up easily explain negative events as permanent, pervasive, and personal. It's my fault, it's going to last forever, and it's going to ruin everything. But buoyant people do the opposite. They have an optimistic explanatory style. They see setbacks as temporary. I was just having an off day. Specific. That particular client was a jerk. And external. The economy is tough right now. This isn't about being delusional. It's about seeing rejection for what it is, not a verdict on your soul, but an event in your life. In a landmark study of insurance salespeople, a job drenched in rejection, those with an optimistic explanatory style sold 37% more insurance and were half as likely to quit. That's buoyancy. The ability to ask the right questions before, maintain a positive ratio during, and explain your setbacks constructively after. It's the life raft that will carry you across that vast ocean of rejection. Clarity. The power of finding the right problem. The third and final quality of the new ABCs is clarity. For generations, we were told that the best salespeople were expert problem solvers. But in a world where information is abundant, if a customer knows exactly what their problem is, they can often solve it themselves with a quick Google search. Today, the most valuable skill is no longer problem solving. It is problem finding. Clarity is the ability to help others see their situations in fresh, more revealing ways, and to identify problems they didn't even realize they had. A brilliant study of art students illustrates this perfectly. Students were asked to create a still life drawing. Some quickly grabbed a few objects and solved the problem. How can I produce a good drawing? But others took their time. They explored many different objects, rearranged them, and experimented. They were trying to find a problem. What good drawing can I produce? Years later, the researchers tracked them down. Guess which group was overwhelmingly more successful as professional artists? The problem finders. This is the essence of clarity. It's the ability to curate, to sift through the noise and present what's most important. It's the ability to ask the right questions that uncover latent needs. It's the art of framing. And the most essential question you can ever ask to provide clarity is this: compared to what? Our brains understand things through contrast. Pink provides 5 powerful frames that leverage this principle. The less frame. We think more choice is better, but it's not. It's paralyzing. In one famous study, a jam display with 24 options led to far fewer sales than a display with only 6 options. Restricting choices can clarify them. The experience frame. Research shows people derive far more satisfaction from buying experiences than from buying material goods. Frame your offering not by its features, but by the experience it will enable. The label frame. In a classic experiment, a game was called the Wall Street game for one group and the community game for another. The community group cooperated twice as often. Labels frame our behavior by hinting at the expected norms. The blemished frame. This is so counterintuitive. Adding a minor negative detail to an otherwise positive description can actually increase its appeal. It makes the positive information more salient and boosts the seller's credibility. The potential frame. What's more persuasive? What you've achieved or what you could achieve? Surprisingly, research shows that potential is often more alluring than accomplishment, because uncertainty makes us think more deeply. Once you've found the problem and the right frame, you need one last thing: an off-ramp. You must provide a clear, simple path for people to act. In one study, a vague request for food donations got an 8% response rate from likely donors. But when the request was made specific, including a map and a reminder call, 25% of the least likely donors contributed. Clarity on how to think without clarity on how to act leaves people unmoved. Attunement, buoyancy, clarity. This is the new operating system for moving others. This is how you need to be. Now, are you ready to learn what you need to do? From knowing to doing? The 3 abilities that matter. Most knowing how to be is the foundation. But to build anything on that foundation, you need actionable skills. Pink identifies 3 that are essential in the new world of moving others: the ability to pitch, the ability to improvise, and the ability to serve. Let's start with the pitch. For decades, we've been taught the elevator pitch, a concise summary of what you do, delivered in the time it takes to ride an elevator. But in an age where the CEO might sit in a cubicle next to you, and everyone in the elevator is staring at their phones, this technique is outdated. The purpose of a pitch today isn't to close a deal. It's to offer something so compelling that it begins a conversation. Pink offers 6 new and improved pitches for the 21st century. The one-word pitch. In a world of shrinking attention spans, what's the one word that defines your offering? For Google, it's search. For President Obama's 2012 campaign, it was forward. Reducing your message to a single word forces brutal clarity. The question pitch. As we've seen, questions are more engaging than statements. When Ronald Reagan ran for president in 1980, he didn't say the economy is terrible. He asked, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? This forces the listener to engage and summon their own reasons for agreeing. The rhyming pitch. Rhymes increase. Processing fluency, making ideas feel more true and memorable. It's why Johnny Cochran's famous line, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," was so powerful. Pitches that rhyme are more sublime. The subject line pitch. Every email you send is a pitch. The most effective subject lines appeal to either pure utility, 4 tips to improve your golf swing, or pure curiosity, some weird things. I just learned about email, or is touch, but rarely both. Be specific and compelling. The Twitter pitch. With a 140-character limit, this form demands conciseness. The most effective tweets ask questions, provide fresh information and links, or offer useful self-promotion. The Pixar pitch. This is a storytelling powerhouse. Every Pixar film follows a 6-sentence narrative structure. Once upon a time, Shopson Terus. Every day, lot sun fru. One day, Safan Sotso fru. Because of that, Sautin Kuriers. Because of that, Sachar Knipofer. Until finally, En Ureris Kuris. This structure is an incredibly compelling framework for any pitch. But what happens when your perfectly crafted pitch goes awry? That's where the next skill comes in. Improvisation. The old world of sales was scripted. Salespeople memorized lines and responses from a manual. But in today's dynamic, unpredictable world, scripts are fragile. You need to be able to think on your feet. Improvisational theater offers 3 brilliant rules for this. Here offers. The opposite of talking isn't waiting. It's listening. Truly listening. In improv, you're trained to treat everything someone says not as an argument to be defeated, but as an offer you can build upon. What sounds like an objection, "I can't afford that right now," is actually an offer. It opens a door to discuss timing or other ways they can be involved. To hear offers, you have to slow down and listen without listening for anything. Say yes and. This is the antidote to the soul-crushing yes, but. Yes, but shuts down possibility. Yes, and builds on it. It's an upward spiral of creativity and collaboration, instead of a downward spiral of negation. It's not just a technique, it's a way of life that opens up a world of possibilities. Make your partner look good. This is the ultimate win-win philosophy. In improv, you succeed by helping your fellow performers shine. This makes the entire scene better, and you look better as a result. Instead of trying to win an argument, your goal is to make the other person come out ahead. This shifts the encounter from a battle to a dance, from coercion to co-creation. Pitching gets the conversation started. Improvising keeps it going. But the final skill is what gives it all meaning, and that skill is to serve. The final secret, from upselling to upserving service, is the final and most important piece of the puzzle. But this isn't the superficial service of smiling on command. This is about improving others' lives and, in turn, improving the world. Pink argues this is the true purpose of moving others, and it's built on 2 pillars. Make it personal and make it purposeful. Let's start with make it personal. An incredible study in Israel found that radiologists, doctors who spend their days reading anonymous CT scans, were far more accurate and empathetic when a simple photograph of the patient was attached to the scan. When the photo was removed from scans they had previously read, they missed 80% of the important incidental findings they had spotted the first time. Seeing the person, not just the problem, transformed their performance. This is the power of making it personal. It's what Joe Ferrugio, a pizzeria owner, does. When he posts a sign with his photo and personal cell phone number, asking customers to call him directly if they had anything less than a great experience. It's about putting a human face on the transaction and standing behind your work with radical accountability. The second pillar is make it purposeful. We are not just motivated by self-interest. We are deeply moved by the desire to contribute to a cause larger than ourselves. In another brilliant study, signs were placed above hand sanitizing dispensers in a hospital. One sign read, "Hand hygiene prevents you from catching diseases." The other read, "Hand hygiene prevents patients from catching diseases." The first sign had 0 effect on hand washing rates. The second sign, the one appealing to purpose, dramatically increased them. This is the power of purpose. In another experiment with university fundraisers, those who spent just 5 minutes reading stories about how the scholarship money they raised had changed students' lives went on to double their weekly fundraising results. Reminding ourselves of the purpose behind our work is a massive performance enhancer. This leads us to the ultimate reframe. The ugliest word in the old sales lexicon is upselling. It's about squeezing more out of the customer for your own benefit. Pink urges us to banish this word and replace it with a new one: upserving. Upserving is about doing more for the other person than they expect or you initially intended. It's about elevating what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. This is the heart of what Pink calls servant selling. It begins with a simple test for every interaction. If the person I'm selling to agrees, will their life be better? When this interaction is over, will the world be a better place? What we've learned: selling is human. So, we've come to the end of our journey, but it's really a beginning. We started by confronting a deeply uncomfortable idea that we're all in sales. We feared this meant we had to become someone we despised. But we've discovered that the opposite is true. The old world of high-pressure tactics and information hoarding is gone, replaced by a world that demands a more human approach. We've learned the new ABCs: attunement, the ability to see from another's perspective by reducing our own power; buoyancy, the ability to stay afloat in an ocean of rejection through questioning self-talk; positivity, and a resilient mindset; and clarity, the ability to find the right problems and frame our offerings in a way that brings light to complexity. We've equipped ourselves with a new toolkit of skills: how to pitch in a world of limited attention, how to improvise when things go off script, and most importantly, how to ground all our efforts in service, making our work personal and purposeful. The ultimate lesson of To Sell is Human is this: the ability to move others is not a dark art. It's a core part of our identity. The things that make us effective in this new world: empathy, creativity, collaboration, and the desire to improve lives, are the very things that make us human. To sell better, we don't have to become less of ourselves. We just have to become more of who we truly are. Your journey into moving others more effectively and ethically doesn't end here. If this summary sparks something in you, I urge you to grab a copy of To Sell is Human by Daniel H. Pink. Dive deeper into the stories, the science, and the exercises. Continue your journey of growth. The world needs more people who can move others, not for their own gain, but for the betterment of us all.